Hey, so we're in this series called Making Change. We're going to go over our 4 weeks already. 1, 2, 3. Less is more. Y'all know that I'm going to make you do it right. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Less is more. Stress is bad. Giving is good. Tomorrow matters. Less is more. Stress is bad. Giving is good. Tomorrow matters. Hey guys, I'm excited to continue the series today. The first week, we talked about less is more. I asked you to find 100 things to get rid of in your life. I bet some of y'all ain't got one done yet, have you? 25. That's great. That's great. Hey, less is more. And we talked about you kind of decluttering your life and realizing what's really important. The second week, we talked about stress is bad and how, that's last week, we talked about how financial debt can just weigh on you, and it can just make you feel horrible, and it can make you worry, and it can do so much to your life. And we talked about how the borrower is slave to the lender, and it's kind of like you're in bondage and in chains when you're in so much debt. We talked about some prayers to pray to get out, like to focus. When you want to buy something and that 2-year-old inside of you is going, I want it, it's really bad. You got to put that 2-year-old in the corner and say, no. We talked about that. Today we're going to talk about giving is good, and next week we're going to talk about tomorrow matters. So as we talk about giving is good today, I just want you to understand that today can be one of those messages and one of those times in your life that the light bulb goes off and you choose to not see it. You choose to not let it change you, or you choose to let a barrier come up. I said earlier that, sometimes people get offended in church when we talk about money or we preach about money. And I had somebody text me, said, I love it when you talk about money. That's great, because it shouldn't be a bad thing. It should be a good thing. How can we manage it better? How can we grow, from our experiences with it and that sort of thing. Paul wrote a powerful verse in Acts, and most of you know the second part of it. And we'll talk about, we're going to read the whole thing, but when I get to the second part, you'll be like, oh, I know that verse. All right. So it's Acts 20:35. You should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to what? Give than to receive. It doesn't say that receiving is not a blessing. Because I like to get stuff. Right? Y'all gonna have to wake up. How many of y'all like to get presents? Amen. If you don't, everybody who didn't raise their hand, Christmas, I want your presents. I don't care if it's underwear, because I need some. Okay? I don't care if it's an ugly tie. I'll wear it. Maybe. Anyway. So, it's fun to get stuff. It's fun to receive, but it says that giving is greater than receiving. So let's do an experiment today. I want you guys to tell me something you got last Christmas. Go ahead. One thing.
A necklace.
Necklace, a laptop. Huh? Money.
A stuffed animal.
A stuffed animal? That's awesome. It takes a minute, right? It takes let me think back. Hold on. Okay, I know. You see, we are quickly to forget some of the things we've been given, aren't we? We are quickly to forget them, and they become a part of our life very quickly. But when we go out of our way to give, when we make a special effort, anybody remember maybe one of those gifts that you really went out of your way and it was going to be really, really, really special, and you know they were going to freak out? Anybody ever done that before? If you haven't, you need to do that. Find a way to give something to somebody that takes a lot of effort, right? One of my favorite things that I've done, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this for you to understand what I'm talking about here. The New York Yankees were moving into their new stadium, and they only had a few games left in their old stadium. And my dad is a baseball nut, like history nut. Like he don't know half the stuff that he knows, right? And I finally gotten a job in a church, and it was going well, and I just finished seminary, and I was getting paid a little bit more, and I was just in a place where I could do something. And for Father's Day, I surprised him with a trip to New York, and we went and saw the Yankees play, right? Which was really fun, and we literally ran through New York. We didn't see much of New York. But the cool part was, it wasn't just that. That was really fun. The cool part was, I arranged for his two best friends to meet us at the airport. So we drove down to Charlotte, and I was like, let's go ahead and grab something to drink. It was like some bar or something. I knew Donnie, his buddy, was there. And Derek was in one place, and then Donnie was in another. And so I think did we first see Donnie? Was he first? Okay. So we went into the bar, and Donnie's there, and I was like, and my dad's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm going to New York with you. Which was awesome, and it was so fun, right? And it would have been great for both of them to be there, but it wasn't. I arranged the other one to be somewhere else. So then we got closer down to the terminal where we were going, and then there's Derek, his other buddy. Man, it was fun, and it was so fun, and I got more out of giving that than I did out of any gift that I've received. You see, when you go the extra mile, when you work hard for something, I love to give. But we were in the car the other day, and I looked at Allison, and I was like, I would, like, there's times I would just take my shirt off and give it to somebody, but it would scare the rest of the people. You know? I mean, I enjoy it. I love it. And now, this isn't an open invitation for all y'all to send me a message and say, hey, I want some. Look, it doesn't work like that. But I'm saying that it's fun to give, and it is a greater blessing to give than to receive, right? And, you know, maybe you've had one of those experiences before. Maybe you've gone out of your way to give. Or maybe you remember the first time you began to tithe, right? And at first, it might have been hard. Like, I didn't know I was signing up for 10% yet. You know, and it was a little tough. And you're like, this hurts a little bit. But then afterwards, you have a sense of fulfillment. You have a sense of obedience and joy because you did what was right. You knew that what you did was what God wanted you to do. Or maybe you helped someone anonymously, or maybe you helped pay for something for somebody instead of asking them to pay for it, or you created an opportunity to where you could bless somebody instead of them, expecting to pay for a service or something like that, right? I hope you have created one of those moments in your life. If you haven't, please do. Please do. Please create an opportunity to be generous. Because it is a greater blessing to be generous than to be stingy. Okay? If you want to be stingy, go live in a hole and be a hobbit. Okay? But if you want to be a part of humanity, there comes a point in time to where you've got to do what you're created to do. And I'm a firm believer that we were created to be generous. We were created to help people. We were created to be used by God and to be a tool for Him. See, the problem is this world has become so self-centered. And it's all about you and how you're going to benefit and what's best for you and your family and how you can get ahead, is that we forgot that God has created us to be a blessing, to be a giver. See, I believe that we were created to give, not to consume. I'm a firm believer in that. We were created with a mission and a purpose to go tell people about Jesus, to give our time, and to give our treasure, to make sure that the mission of Jesus and the mission of the kingdom is the most important thing that we do. Because really, we've got an 80 to 95 year lifespan, and then we're gone. But yet eternity is eternity. See, that's more important than this. But our sinful nature and what the world tells us and what Satan tells us is that this moment is what matters. It's not. It's the rest of eternity. That's what matters. That's what matters. We were created to be a tool for the kingdom and not a strain on the kingdom. Okay? We have a saying here. We have a saying that says, you grow when you give. I'm a firm believer in that. I put it up one time on Facebook, and somebody said, you need to be careful. You're not a prosperity gospel preacher and all this. I was like, dude, why you go there? Look, I don't care if you're giving your time. I don't care if you're giving your talent. I don't care if you're giving your treasure. I don't care if you're giving all three. When you give and you are generous, you will grow not only spiritually, but you will grow mentally, and you will grow in your relationships with others, and more importantly with Jesus. Bottom line. The alternative is not giving at all and being stingy and selfish. Okay? So that's not, that's what we're trying to get at. That's what we're talking about today. And when you move into a life that's centered on Jesus and how you can be used to increase His kingdom, you will grow. And you'll grow in your faith, your relationship, the compassion of others, and your purpose. You'll begin to see life differently. Now, I want to give you a warning for today. This is the Surgeon General's warning on the side of the box. Okay? Y'all ready? Y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay, that's better. Okay. If you don't believe in tithing, you will feel very, very uncomfortable today. I promise that I'm not picking on you. That feeling that you have is not me. That is the Holy Spirit. I didn't sit down and come up with this because you're not tithing. We have really good people in our church. We have very faithful people in our church. But just like every church, and just like every Christian in America, we need to be reminded of what's important in our life. And who owns it all. And who it belongs to. Okay? So, you were created to be a giver, and you may be where I was at one time. I was mad one time. I was on staff at a church, and I was mad. So I quit giving. Me, like a minister on staff, I was mad. I said, I ain't giving anymore. And you know what? Stuff started falling apart. My life started getting worse. Not just money-wise, but everything. Everything. And I realized really quick that your heart usually is where your treasure is. And I quickly realized that I was being selfish. And I said, you know what? I'm never going to do that again. I don't want to go through that again. Everything got worse. You think, oh, I'm going to stop giving. I'll have X amount of dollars extra a month. No. There's something comes up that's even worse than that, what I thought was giving. And fast forward many years to where I'm in a position, I've matured a lot, I've got kids now, and I want more out of life. I want to be used more for God's kingdom. I was tired of monotony, I was tired of mediocrity, I was tired of working, and not seeing salvation. And I said, God, I want more. And then He asked me, He said, what are you willing to do? How far are you willing to go? And I wrestled with that for a while. Because it wasn't just 10% anymore. It wasn't just a little bit. It wasn't just when you feel led, give a little bit more. It was my life. He said, what are you willing to do? And I finally wrestled with that, and I said, I'll do whatever it takes. Anything. Name it. And the minute that I said that, that's when the doors started opening. The minute I was willing to sacrifice everything that we owned, everything that we were, everything that we had done up to that point, to be a part of something new, to be a part of something different, and to see people get saved, and to take a risk, in my eyes, a risk, that's when life started changing. Because later, a church was started, and we saw more people baptized in the first year than I'd seen in 15 years of ministry. It's worth it. It's worth it. All in is always better. It's always better. When you give your time, your talent, and your treasure, Jesus reveals your purpose. He reveals His plan, and then finally He reveals God's provisions. That's what happens when you go all in. So you begin to be used as a vessel and a tool to advance the kingdom. And people begin to see people's lives change all around you. And Jesus begins to be elevated when you're willing to put His kingdom and everything before yourself. This is not just about money. This is a life perspective of what is really the most important thing, the number one thing up there. Why you wake up in the morning, why you go to work, why you do what you do, right here. What is that? Some of us put our family above the kingdom. Some of us put our kids above the kingdom. Some of us put success above the kingdom. But what we're supposed to do is put the kingdom and the mission of Jesus Christ up here. And everything that He's given us has to funnel into that. Because the outflow will overflow in your life. Paul explained it this way in 2 Corinthians. You will be enriched in how many ways? Every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion, and through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. Just imagine for a minute, people thanking, praising God, and being introduced to Jesus, and their life being changed for eternity because you were generous and obedient. Not so you can boast, not so you can lift yourself up, but for you to say, God used me in the kingdom to see other people come to know Jesus. Wow. But here's what's challenging. Here's the challenging question that I keep struggling with. We're all, if giving is good, if it's a good thing, right? Then why don't we do it more? Right? Nod your head or no? I mean, it's a good thing. But yet we don't do it that often. Not just at church, but just in general. We don't give. Here's why. There's 3 reasons, I believe. We don't think we have enough. We are financially struggling, and we don't think we have enough. If you don't think you have enough, get off your lazy tushies, go to third world country and serve for at least a week. You will come back with a different perspective, and you will realize you have more than enough. Number 2, we've all heard messages like these before abused. Give $100 and God will give you 1,000. Put your seed money in. We'll send you a vial of oil and it'll bless everything. Just put drops on it. That's not right. It's not right. Money is junk to God. It's paper. We created it. Your heart, your time, your talent, and your treasures, not just money, but the things you value. That's what He cares about. That's what we give. And sometimes money is part of that. Sometimes money is part of that. And some of us, we live in a scarcity mindset instead of an abundant mindset. We think, oh no, I'm going to run out. The apocalypse is coming. The bunker's not full. I need some more ramen noodles. Just one more pack, 25 cents. Instead of saying, you know what? We're a child of God. We're inheritance of the kingdom. He owns it all. Therefore, we can be generous. The Bible teaches us something completely opposite of these mindsets. In Proverbs 11, 24 through 25, here's what the wise King Solomon said. The world of the generous gets larger and larger. The world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. The one who blesses others is abundantly blessed. So here is a wonderful measuring tool for you right now, today. We're taking a self-reflection, okay? Here's a wonderful measuring tool to say, am I generous? Has your world gotten smaller and smaller lately? Or has it gotten larger and larger? Think about it. Think about it. The pressures of the world, everything that comes around it, whether it's money, whatever it is it getting smaller and smaller, or is it getting bigger and bigger? When we focus on ourselves, and I'm the prime example. When we focus on ourselves and we worry about things that we cannot control, and we act like little, squirrels getting ready for the winter and start hoarding it up, our world gets really small, very small, and stressful. But when we give, it gets very big and free. Because we have a purpose. I believe we were created to do that. I believe that it frees us. Okay? So I want to give you 3 ways today to begin to grow through generosity and to enlarge your world. Okay, the first one is trust God with the tithe. Some people say, what's the tithe? Okay, it's the starting point, it's the beginning point of our finances. The Hebrew word of tithe is Messiah. I think that's how you say it. Please don't quote me. I'm not a Hebrew linguist. Messiah. M-A-A-S-E-R. Which means literally 1/10. Okay? In Leviticus 27, verse 30, 1/10 of the produce of the land, whether it grain from the fields or fruit from the trees, what? Belongs to the Lord and must be set apart to Him as what? Holy. 1/10 of what you have is holy. Whew. So let me break this down. If there's $100, the first $10 of that is not yours. Right? That's God's. It's holy. That's right. I said it. It's not yours. You didn't earn it. I know you think you did. You didn't. It's not yours. It never was. It never will be. It's His. It's holy. Period. I warned you guys. That's tough. And we all go, yep, that's right. Amen, brother. But think about it. It's not yours. When you spend that, when you waste it, it's not yours. It's His. It belongs to God, and we should return it to Him as an act of worship. As an act of worship. We should rearrange our entire life to make sure that God gets the first and best of what He has blessed us with and who we are. Not just money, our life. Everything is worship. And before you say, well, 10% is not in the New Testament. I've heard that. Quit reading the internet, believe in everything that you read, and do the real homework, okay? The real homework will show you that in Matthew 23:23, Jesus is specifically talking to the Pharisees who did everything by the book, but they had a rotten heart. They did it so everybody could see what they were doing. Okay? But here's what He said to them. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give 1/10 of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Now, here's a great opportunity for Jesus to say, it don't matter how much you give. Just be happy about it. But no, He said this, you should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. The reason you don't hear a lot about it is because it was given. People knew what to do. We have to be taught what to do because we have been in a generation of pastors and leaders who are afraid to talk about money because people get offended. That's why we have to be so blunt about it. That's why we have to talk about it. We have to address that feeling. God even invited us to test Him in this theory. Nowhere else in the Bible, not one other place are we allowed or given the freedom or the permission to ever test God. Ever. He specifically said, test me in this. Malachi 3:10, bring the what? Whole, no, not just the tithe.
Whole.
The whole tithe. Okay? Into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Then what did He say? Test me in this. He gives us an opportunity to say, what up? You know, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. Giving is good. Giving is better. You think you got it good now? Give and watch what happens. Now this isn't prosperity. I'm not talking about you going to get a new airplane or that cool fast fishing boat that you want. I don't know who wants one of those. I'm not saying you're going to get what you want. I'm saying He's going to give you what you need, and He's going to give you what is good for you. And you'll have a better life than what you think is good. Because He is your Father. He wants what's best for you. Okay? Here's a great motto for your life when we're doing self-evaluation of your time, your treasure. Here's a great motto. Worship God with my first and best. Trust Him to bless the rest. Worship God with my first and best. Trust Him to bless the rest. It's His anyway. Right? Because you know what? There always will be a reason not to give your first and best of your time. There's always something that comes up. There's always something that's a little bit more important than giving your first and best of your time to Jesus, the kingdom, your quiet time, the church, serving other people. There's always something that will come up. There's always a reason not to give your first and best of your talent. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to serve because the last church I went to, I was in the kids area every single week and they burned me out. Anybody heard that before? Y'all are lying. I've heard it a million times. I get it. But it's not an excuse. There's always a place to serve. There's always a place to use your talent that God's given you. There's always a reason not to give your first and best of your treasure. I understand that too. There's another bill to pay. It's tough. It's tough. Why? Because there's a spiritual war that is raging around us all the time. See, here's the deal. If Satan can defund the church, us, collectively, the big C all across the world and the little C's, if he can defund us of its people and their time, their gifts and their talents, and finally the resources, guess what? He wins. He makes it so much easier to attack us individually when the church has been beaten. Because this is where we're supposed to come and encourage and build up each other. Whether you believe it or not, you need people. You need other Christians, and you need the church. Be gone for 6 months and see what happens. You'll quickly realize, I need the church. I got a friend here today that I want to ask a few questions about. Come on up, Jimmy. This is Jimmy Porter, and I want to talk with him a little bit about his life for just a minute. What's up, man? Jimmy, some of y'all may have seen him around. Come over here. There we go. Yes. See? Then you don't have to be nervous. You don't even have to picture them in their underwear because you can't see them anyway. That's right. That's right. So Jimmy has told me a little bit about his story. He hasn't been up here long. How long have y'all been up here?
19 months.
19 months they've been living in South Carolina. Okay? And y'all came up from Florida. Now, tell me what your life was like when you were in Florida. Tell them. Sorry.
It was real tough. I mean, about not quite 3 years ago, my wife and I, we were homeless. We were living in my sister's garage. We lost everything. I was doing exactly what I'm doing now, but we didn't have the funding. We didn't have the money. We were hurting.
And you had kids, right? Living in your sister's garage with kids.
All four of us were staying in the garage, and it was the middle of summer in Florida. It was really hot, but we kept going. We kept pushing. We didn't give up, and then we got an opportunity to come up here, and everything changed. I mean, we kept believing, and God has blessed us 100% the whole way.
So while you were in there, while you were in your sister's garage, and you guys you felt like you were rock bottom. I mean, I couldn't imagine. But you had your faith. You're a grandson of a pastor, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Grandson of a pastor. You had your faith. You're living with your sister in her garage. Just FYI, says, anything happens, we coming over. He said it was good. So, you guys were struggling, but you still had your faith. You still went to church. You were still, pushing and understanding that God was going to take care of you, right? Absolutely. And then He gave you the opportunity. Now, you're an audiologist, right?
I'm a hearing specialist.
Hearing specialist. I don't know the difference, but He helps people hear. Okay. And you were doing that down there, but you just couldn't get going. And you felt God was calling you up here.
Yes, sir.
And you guys took a risk, came up here, right? Because you felt God had asked you to.
Yes, sir.
And then now, what happened after that?
Our lives changed 100%. I mean, now we don't struggle. We bought our first house. It's amazing. Everything changed. Financially, that stress is not there. I'm very close to being. I'm less than $5,000 away from being completely debt free. So it's like.
Yes, that is worth. Moved into a neighborhood. You met one of our crazy potential church people, became friends, and then found potential church, right? And just how important is it for you to be able to find a family, find a home, and find people that believe the same thing you do and lift you up?
I mean, it goes a long way because when you're alone and you're trying to do it alone, you can try to make it work as much as possible, but when you have others around you believing and feeling the same way and the same things, that goes a long way. It'll spread faster and more rapid.
I'm praying for you, and the whole time, what was your stance on tithing and giving?
I was always raised to do my 10%. My grandpa tried to push us to do 20%.
Could you believe that? A pastor in the family pushing his family to do 20%? Yeah, that's right. But so you personally seen, even in the hardest times, that the blessing comes after you've been faithful. Right. Man, thank you for your story, man. I can't wait to, hear more of it and see how God's using you. Less than $5,000 away.
So, man, it's gonna be big.
All right. Well, I'm stoked for you. Hey, look, I've been blessed recently. I'm personally going to give you $500 toward your $5,000. Okay? Is that cool? I'm going to, because I'm on that journey too, but I want to make sure you get there. Okay? All right? Is that cool? I just now thought about that. Okay? Are you cool? Because that's like 10%. I want to honor you. Okay? I want to. I love you, man. I want to see it. Okay? Thank you. Good job. It's going to be in Chuck E. Cheese coins. Guys, that is an example of faithfulness. God's provision and God's people. The second way to grow through your generosity is to plan your generosity. Isaiah 32:8 says, "But generous people plan to do what is generous, and they stand firm in their generosity." One of my favorite sayings is plan your work, and y'all have not heard this? Come on.
Plan.
Plan your work and
Work your plan.
every time my life gets crazy, every time things are out of, it's because I haven't planned something or I didn't stick to the plan. Amen? Can you say that too? I mean, I've been that way. Right? Ever seen those days you felt like a hamster on the wheel and you worked all day and you saw no results? I've been there. I get it. Life can get that way. You find yourself pushing so hard and you never get ahead. What if, now this is revolutionary, folks. All right, they're going to be talking about this on like Fox News and stuff. What if, instead of worrying about putting yourself first, you actually plan to help others first? Like you wake up in the morning every day, and instead of thinking, what do I have to do? What is needed of me? You actually start thinking, what can I do for somebody else today? How can I bless somebody? You want to see a revival? You want to be a part of something wonderful and see lives change? You want to be used by the kingdom? Wake up with that attitude. Not, man, I got to go make money. I got to do this because, man, we struggle. We don't have enough. You know, the bean count is down in the bunker. You know, quit thinking that way. Wake up and say, how can I bless somebody? How can I be a part of the kingdom? And Jesus will unlock and show you people in front of you every day that need you. That need you. Pray and beg for God to reveal ways to be generous, not just in tithing, but in helping someone. And hey, how about this? Be a pro and do it anonymously. That's right. Do something nice without anybody knowing it. And just watch how God blesses it. When you plan up, you will wake up, you'll be excited and pumped up of seeing how God will use you and bless you through someone else. And the third way to grow through generosity is start being generous now. Now. In 20 years of ministry, I've discovered there are 3 types of people in the church when it comes to money. One is the committed. We need them. Thank you. If you're the committed, thank you. You serve. You give. You show up and you don't see problems, you find solutions. That's what you do. The committed. Thank you. You don't come and say, what can the world give me? What can the church give me? You come and say, what can I give the church? That's the committed. The second person is the consumer. Completely opposite than the committed. Could you imagine? That would be the complete opposite. Yeah, that's right. The person that walks in and says, oh, y'all didn't vacuum the carpet. Oh, where's my pat on the back for picking up that one piece of trash? Yeah, you know what it is. The person that comes with problems, gripes and complaints, but no solutions. They never say, how can I help? They always say, this is what's wrong. That's the consumer. And we may have all been there at some point. That's okay. The trick is not staying there. And then the last person is the most dangerous, the poser. Y'all know what a poser is? That's a big word when I was in middle school. Are you a poser? Okay. I know I can't ride a skateboard. I'm okay with that. The poser is the person that acts holy, the person that talks holy, the person that presents themselves as the committed, presents themselves as one of God's chosen. They walk in and they have like an LED on their back and it's like a holy light. Okay? That's the poser. But when you get down to it and you open their checkbook, you watch how they spend their time, you see their life behind the facade is a joke. That is the most dangerous person. Those are the 3. So let me be clear about this. I'm challenging all of us. I'm not doing this because the church needs money. Every church in America needs money. I'm doing this because it's biblical. Show up or shut up. We sacrifice for what we love. For our kids, our spouse, our friends. We'll sacrifice our time. We'll sacrifice whatever it takes sometimes for the people we love. But when it comes to Jesus, we like to talk about loving Him, worshiping Him. But if you look at how we spend our quiet time, our prayer, and growing our relationship, spending our talents, serving in the church, or giving of the treasures He's blessed us with, it doesn't look like love to me sometimes. I've seen some of the most generous people in the world that are God's people. And I've seen some of the most messed up people in the world that said they're God's people. I don't want us to be like that. I want you to experience a freedom and the blessings of generosity. So don't talk about loving Jesus If you can't give him the minimum of 10% of your time, talent, treasure, put up or shut up. You want to give to another church? Fine. You get mad at me over that? Fine. I don't care. You know why? Because it's biblical. It doesn't matter if the other guy won't preach about it, but I will. It ain't yours. Never was, never will be. It's holy and it's his. Your time, your talent, and your treasure. We start at 10%. Now look, those are hard words, but I gave you a fair Surgeon General warning before we started. Okay? Amen? Can we all agree? I gave you a warning. Okay? I gave you a warning. God didn't ask this to bring us a burden. He commanded this to set us free. Paul wrote this to the church leader in Philemon of the Colossian church. Philemon 1:6. And I'm praying that you will put into action the generosity that comes from your faith as you understand and experience all the good things we have in Christ. The more you realize what's good for you, that Jesus is giving you, the more you should be giving. Because you realize how good he's been. Friends, when we are generous, we get to experience all the good things we have in Christ. Generosity unlocks your heart. It destroys selfishness and is the killer of entitlement and sinful pride. You become a better person when you become a generous person. The last 2 weeks, we've ended each sermon saying this, a quote that I love. The richest people are not those who have the most. It's those that need the least. Well, today I'm going to add a little bit to it, okay? The richest people are not those who have the most. It's those that need the least and give the most. That's what brings you joy. And if you're one of these people that are stingy, it's going to take some, it's going to hurt. But after you do it, you're going to experience a new kind of joy that you never experienced. Because God will set you free. He's not going to give you $1 million because you gave $1 to somebody. You're going to be a part of what the kingdom is doing. You will be fulfilling one of the reasons you were created, which is to be generous, not to be stingy. You were created for more. Now, some people get offended by this stuff. So, if you want to see my tithing record for the last since Potential Church started, ask John Paul. He'll print it out for you. I ask my people nothing less than what I've already done. I would ask this in front of 14 million people that claim to be believers. You know what would happen if people who believe, that claim to be believers, would just tithe 10%? Right now, the church average is 2%. If we in America tithe 10%, there would be no more hunger in the world. There would be no more literacy in the world. There would be no more homelessness in the world. That's how big we are. That's how powerful we are. There will be no more orphans. We don't need fancy buildings. We need generous people that are obedient to what God's created and called them to. Today, the invitation is not for salvation. It's always open. If you need to give your life to Jesus, the door is always open. I'll pray with you afterwards. Here's the invitation today. Examine your life and ask yourself if you're being obedient to what God wants you to do. We struggle at times, but we don't have to struggle forever. Make a change today. Sit back and watch what happens. Challenge you. Tithe for 3 months. Tithe here, tithe wherever you want to tithe. If you don't want to tithe here and test my theory, fine, I'll give you another church tithe too. I don't care. Tithe for 3 months and see what happens. God will open doors for you. He will enhance your life. May not be monetarily, but you'll be able to see it. God's provisions will come clear. His purpose for your life will be clear. And His plans will be solid. because your heart is where your treasure is. Let's pray. Lord, we love you. Today is your day. God, today is a touchy subject. It's hard sometimes. It's hard to let go of the thing that controls so much of our life. God, help us understand that it's not ours, it's yours. Never was, never will be. And we have a responsibility to your kingdom and what we're called to be, and who we're called to impact and tell the gospel to, and how we do that. Let our generosity overflow. Let us be people who love to give. We ask that in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand and sing together.